Observe this tiny object. A single workman, unskilled in this business, could scarce make one pin in a day. Yet here, through the beautiful art of the division of labor, these 10 men produce upwards of 48,000. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. This invisible hand turns individual ambition into a mountain of public plenty.
So this is the cost.
Knows that I work in a bayani. You're not pushing to the planning what several fans. But his ever got the broly order the press. At den spits the dollars. If see what the unexplained.
Gentlemen, Dr. Smith, you see harmony in the machine. Dr. Marx, you see a pressure cooker.
My dear Herr Marx, you speak as if the system is a dungeon. Look at this table. It was not built by a decree from a king or a central committee. It exists because a carpenter wanted to feed his children and a lumberjack wanted to buy a new saw. By pursuing their own gain, they have provided us a place to sit. Is this vampirism, or is it the natural liberty of man?
It is a beautiful fairy tale, Adam, but you forget who actually cut the wood. The lumberjack does not own the saw. He rents his very life to the man who owns it. You see natural liberty, but I see a contract signed at the point of a bayonet, the bayonet of hunger. Your invisible hand is simply the hand of the property owner reaching into the pocket of the worker to steal the surplus value of his toy. And yet the worker in my commercial society eats better than the primitive hunter. The division of labor creates such a surplus that even the lowest ranks are provided for. To interfere with this, to seize the means of production, as you say, would be to break the very spring that keeps the clock of civilization ticking. You would trade a productive inequality for a universal grinding poverty.
Productive inequality. Tell that to the child in the Manchester textile mill who has forgotten the contract, Adam. They will take the fact.
Gentlemen, please. Adam, your invisible hand has developed a rather nasty trimmer, and Karl, your revolution sounds dreadfully messy and, frankly, quite boring in its lack of variety. May I offer a third perspective?
And who might you be, sir? You look like a man who spends a great deal of time in government offices.
Precisely where the work gets done, Adam. I am Ken's. I've spent my life watching your self-correcting markets fall into a catatonic stose. You say the market will fix itself in the long run. Well, in the long run, we are all dead. If the engine of demand stalls, the car doesn't care how many pins you've efficiently manufactured. It simply won't move.
Another patchwork artist. You want to save the patient with a bandage when the entire circulatory system is poisoned by profit. You speak of demand, but what of the worker who has no wages?
That is exactly the point, Karl. When the animal spirits of the investors fail and the workers are laid off, the invisible hand becomes paralyzed. That is when the state must step in to prime the pump. We must spend when others won't. We must manage the highs and lows so that the anarchy of production doesn't lead to a Great Depression.
To manage the market is to invite the heavy hand of the state of every citizen. It is a slippery slope to the very tyranny Karl dreams of.